Hi everyone, welcome to video number 23 in the UE5 Vehicle tutorial series. In this video, we will be using the color picker we made in video number 22, and we'll make it functional, as in actually change the color of the car, and we'll create multiple color channels that we'll use to also change the color of the wheels with a couple buttons to decide which color channel you want to be affecting with the color picker. So let's open up our main menu widget and also our color picker. Now I took the liberty here of removing the output color preview because I've decided not to use it after all. So if you go into the event graph here and open your set output color function that we've created, you're gonna have to remove the part where you change the color of the output preview and only set the output color variable instead. Also, here in the event construct, you can see we're initializing the color picker to be displaying the input color. I want to add a custom event, which I'm going to call reset, because I want to be able to reinitialize the color picker whenever I change the input color. For example, when we select a different vehicle and its default color is different, I want to reset the color picker to be showing that color. And that is all we had to do in the color picker. So let's jump back into the event graph of our main menu. And now just to make this cleaner, this part here, which is actually populating the scroll box with all of the buttons for each cars, I'm going to collapse that into function, and I will call it populate vehicle list. And I do not appreciate the amount of inputs here, so I'll open it right away. And I only need one input here. And I also only need one index input. Now that's going to give you an error. That's perfectly normal. You have to right click your function here and hit refresh node. Refresh node right here. And there you go. Now that is a lot cleaner. I like that better. Okay, so here's what happens when we first open up the menu. Is we play the animation, obviously, for the mouse icon. We find our menu actor, set a variable to it, and then we grab the car array here, and we spawn a button widget for each car into the scroll box. And once we're done with that, we grab the game instance, set the selected vehicle to be the first vehicle in the car list, and then we go on and update the display name and mesh and position of the display mesh. And what we also want to do is set the input color of the color picker to be matching the color of the car. And so the way we're going to do that first of all, we'll create a new function for it, because we'll be using that function in different places in the graph. So right away here, I will call it initialize colors. And before I forget about it, because that's something I do pretty often, let's go back into the event graph and put our function there right away. Because I'll often start implementing a bunch of stuff into the function I just made, and then I'll forget to come back here and add the function, and then I'm gonna wonder why nothing is happening. So initialize color, we want to grab our menu actor, grab the display mesh from it, and before we go any further, I feel like I have to explain a little bit what I'm about to do, because it's not exactly obvious. So let me open two car meshes. For example, the Porsche and also the Nissan R34. Okay, so on each of my vehicles I have one, and it's very important only to have one material slot that I've called paint. Okay, and that slot has the material for the car paint, which is different for every vehicle, but they all share one thing in common. All of those are derived from a material that has a vector parameter here for the color, and that vector parameter is called color. You guessed it. And so actually you don't need to have the same material for every vehicle. You can have any material you want so long as it has a color vector parameter. The other thing is, as you can see here, for the Nissan, the paint material is in slot, or at the index number 3. The Porsche, on the other hand, has its paint material on index 0. And so we can't use the index to tell the blueprint which material slot we want to be modifying. And so we're going to have to find the index at which the material slot called paint is, because it's going to be different for every vehicle. And the way we do that is to get material index, now we know the material slot name we want is paint with a capital P. Also, we are going to create a dynamic material instance, and so that's going to basically give you a reference here to a dynamic material instance that you can use to set parameters, even if your base material is not a material instance. So when I say you can use any materials, I mean that. Any materials will do, so long as it has a vector parameter that is called color. And so as you can see, create dynamic material instance here requires an index, and that's why we're using the get material index, because the material index is going to be different for every vehicle. And also you need to put something here into the source material, but again, we don't know what material is going to be applied into that slot, and it could be different for every vehicle. And so what you're going to do here is, again, from the display mesh, you will get material. You're going to feed it the index that we found here for the paint slot, and that gives you a reference to the material that is applied to this material slot. And now, just like that, you have a material instance here that you can use to set vector parameter value. Now the parameter name, as I've shown you, is called color. We're not actually going to set it here in the initialize colors. We're only going to get it. But I wanted to show you what you can do here with the dynamic material instance. Another thing we're going to do here is to drag off of the return value and promote it to a variable so that we can use it again in different places in the graph. And I'm going to call it dynamic material instance underscore primary color, because we're going to have a few of these. Now from this dynamic material instance, we are instead going to use a get vector parameter value. Use the parameter name color again. And this is the color that the car is when you first display it on the menu. And we're going to use that, as I said previously, with the UMG color wheel. We are going to set the input color to the color of the car, and then we'll fire the event we've created that's called reset. And that is our event initialize colors for now. Obviously later on we'll be using this here, copy and paste it for paint 2 or wheels, for example. You'll have one of these with a variable for each slots that you want to be able to modify the color of. But you're only going to set the color picker once for the primary color, because by default whenever you switch vehicles you're going to be selected onto the primary color, and then you have to click buttons to select the other slots. So by default, whenever you change vehicle, you're going to set the color picker here to the primary color. Now let's test that right away. If I just go back here into the designer, you can see the default position is going to be green, a pretty light green. But because I've got the Porsche selected and the Porsche is blue, you can tell the color picker here actually has the right colors in it. Now we need that color picker to be changing the color of the car on the display mesh. And the way we do that is by going to the event tick, which is right here. We are going to move this out of the way, and then we are going to grab our UMG color wheel, which has two buttons that we can press to change the color variable. And basically we just want to know if we're currently pressing one of them, because if we're not, that means the color variable isn't changing, because we're not changing it basically. So you can use the isPressed node for a button here, and if either one of those is true, then we're going to update the color of the vehicle, and if not, then we're just going to skip past it and just keep going. So if it's false, if we're not currently modifying the output color, we just keep going here. If they're true, meaning we're holding down the left mouse button over one of the two buttons and we're actively changing the color in the color picker, we are going to grab here from the color wheel the output color. And then here the variable pointing to our dynamic material instance for the primary color. And we will set vector parameter value. Again, parameter name here is going to be color, and the value is going to be the output color of our color picker. Now later on we'll have an integer, which is going to be, for example, anything from 0 to 2, which is going to represent which color slot we selected with the buttons. And then we'll have a select node here, and we're going to change a different dynamic material instance depending on which slot is selected. And so this here won't grow any bigger than that. We'll just have an extra node here, a select node, to decide which one of the materials we're currently editing. But that's probably going to be in the next video. I'll try to keep that one short for you. So right now, what we can do here, you see we open up the menu, we've got the appropriate color, and we can start modifying the color right away in real time. So that's great, right? Now there's a problem with that. As I mentioned, the material indexes are different from one card to another. So sometimes you're going to get lucky. For example, here the Savannah also has its paint material slot at index 0. So it's transferring properly. And then you go to the Nissan, where I showed you the paint slot is at index 3, but we're still referencing the index 0 in the graph. And so we're not changing the color of the wrong material. And so the way we fix that is we're gonna delete or destroy the menu actor, and we're gonna spawn a fresh one that's going to be that's gonna have all the default values, and then we will re-execute the initialize color to search the material index again and reset this variable properly. And so the way we do that, we're going to close those meshes here, and we are going to open up our vehicle button, which in my case is custom widget, UMG vehicle button. Now yours probably looks something like this, if I recall properly. I have done a little bit of work here that I haven't showed you. So yours should look like this. So now whenever we pick a vehicle by clicking the button, we're going to get again our main menu UMG, get its display or menu actor, sorry, get menu actor, and we will destroy it. Once we've destroyed it, we will simply spawn a new one. So spawn actor from class. That is going to be again another menu actor. Now let me show you a neat trick right now. If you just compile that right now, it gives you an error because you have to have a transform in there, which is not cool because I just want to leave it all at 0. And I don't actually need to make a transform here to make it all 0. So just right click the transform and split it, and now you see everything is set to 0 and the error is gone. So that's cool. Next up, collision handling override here, super important. You need to set it to always spawn and ignore collision, because you do not want to end up here with a return value that is empty because the menu actor wasn't able to spawn because of collisions, for example. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use an isValid node, the very bottom one with the question mark. And we're going to use this to make sure that the output here is valid before we execute the following blueprint, because this might take a little bit of time to spawn and initialize the new menu actor, and we don't want to go too fast here and reference the actor before it's done doing its thing, you know, spawning and initializing. So if it is valid, we just keep going. If it's not valid, what we do here is we delay until next tick, and we just go right back in. And so that here is going to loop until suddenly, whoop, that return value is valid and it goes through. Which is why it's very important to set this here to always spawn, because if it doesn't spawn, then you've just created an infinite loop and your game is going to crash. So, and with that done, let's go ahead and open up the, not open up, sorry. Let's drag off of our main menu UMG and set the menu pawn variable to the menu pawn we just created, which is this one. And with that done, all we have to do is grab here the main menu UMG and trigger the function that we've called initialize colors. Let's go ahead and test it right away. Good. Now you can tell the Savannah spawns with its default color, which is red, and then the color picker here is displaying the red color, the orange, the white, the red, the yellow. So everything is working. Now there is a bit of an annoying thing with that, is when you destroy and respawn the menu actor, as you can see, it'll snap back to the default camera angle, and I don't much like that. So we're going to, before we destroy it, menu actor has a spring arm. So we're going to get the relative rotation of that spring arm, save it onto a variable, just so we can reapply it afterward. And we're obviously going to do that before we destroy it. So menu actor camera rotation. There you go. And now after we confirmed that the new menu actor is spawned, we can go ahead here, menu actor, grab the spring arm, and set its relative rotation to the one we saved into a variable before we destroyed the old one. Relative rotation, yes. Great. So that's it. That's it for this episode, actually. We'll be building more on top of it in the next video. But yeah, right now, your color picker is working. Whenever you select a new vehicle, color picker will display the appropriate color. And whenever you change the value here, it'll affect your vehicle. Now, obviously this isn't getting saved anywhere, so if you hit play right now, you're gonna spawn in the map with your car with the default colors. Because actually saving and applying that is gonna be also in the next video. Because that's quite a big topic to cover. Because then we have to start tapping into player inventory, which requires kind of a structure to it, and it's a bit complicated, so not something you do in one video. And with that said, I'm gonna stop this video here. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.